All right. So today is April 27th, 2024. And this is going to be a class on freeing yourself from back pain. And I think one of the things that makes somatics a little bit unique from other types of modalities is that we're not so much looking at muscles. We're looking often at reflexes and how the brain is communicating certain information to the body through the muscular system. So today I want to work with two primary reflexes, which can really contribute to back pain of any kind, whether it's upper back or middle back or lower back. And the first reflex, I'll show you a quick picture if I can just hold my book up to the camera. You can see this little baby right here. And that's one of the first things, a baby is born in the fetal position. And so it has no tone in its back extensor muscles, the muscles that run along the spine. And so one of the first things, if you see a child within a couple of months, if you lay them on their tummy, they're going to start lifting their head and starting to get some control of the back extensor muscles. And that's called a Landau reflex. It's actually, the beginning of being able to move into life, because you can't even begin to crawl or to creep or eventually to walk until you have some tone along your back extensor muscles. So it's all well and good as far as how that is developmentally important. But for us as adults, if we have too much tone in our back extensor muscles, let me back up a little bit, then it creates this sort of sway back, which compresses a lot of the joints in the spine. And so the Landau reflex, if we're sort of always on the go and always moving and always achieving, that sort of creates this hyper extension of the back muscles and can create a lot of pain because too much tone in these muscles that run along the spine, if they never get to soften and relax and turn off, even when you're sleeping at night, then they get overworked, exhausted, tired, and sore. So that's one reflex we're going to work with. The other reflex, which would be the opposite of that, has a few different names. Fear paralysis is one. Anytime we have anything coming towards us that feels dangerous or threatening, our natural reflexive response is to cringe forward and to protect the front of the body. It's also called the moral or the startle reflex. So it basically pulls the head forward, it pulls and shortens the abdominal muscles, also tightens the adductor muscles on the inside of the thighs, the pelvic floor. And again, these reflexes are absolutely important for survival. We have to have them. We're never going to get rid of them, and we wouldn't want to. But we do need to be able to, when we're not reacting or responding either in the go forward of life or the withdrawal from life, we want to be able to have equal tone, the muscles in the back and the muscles of the front, creating a nice sandwich to support the spine. So we're going to work with both those reflexes today so that we can begin to find that neutral spine, which then will hopefully provide a lot of relief for any kind of tension that you might be feeling or discomfort in your back. So that's sort of our intention today. So I invite you to lie on your back and get comfortable. And adjust your body to whatever you need in this moment to get even more comfortable. I invite you to gently close your eyes. Perhaps you can notice that you can close them so gently that you can barely feel them close. And we're just taking this time, a few moments to slow down. So you might even begin to sense that your eyes can sink back and float in your eye sockets, just resting and floating. Giving the eyes a rest. All the muscles in and around your face, your brow can soften. So you're taking a moment to shift your attention into your physical body, just like an elevator descending out of thinking, problem solving, and just dropping into your body in this moment. And just begin to notice any sensations that are in your body that you're feeling and sensing in this moment. Whether you like it or not, whether it feels good or not, whether it makes sense or not, just simply acknowledge what you notice. And there might be all sorts of things that are happening in the world around you and inside of you. But your body is right here, right where you brought it, right where you placed it. And you might begin to notice that all parts of your body in this moment are actually responding to a very gentle downward orientation to the ground. And that's what gravity does. It reminds you that in this moment, you could settle down, slowing down and settling down. And your body might feel comfortable enough to want to spread itself out, or soften, or lengthen. I wonder if any of those muscles along your spine might soften their grip, because right now they're not having to hold you up. So you're just noticing. You're sort of saying hello to the body. And whatever you notice, acknowledge it and allow it to be just as it is in this moment, without needing to do anything. There's nothing to release, to relax, to let go of. You're just noticing any sensations that are there and allowing what you notice to be just as it is. And you might just notice how your body is responding to this acknowledgement. Notice if it changes or if it stays the same. And now I invite you to move your attention to your abdomen and invite your belly to soften without forcing. Just in an easy, natural way, inviting the softening of your belly as you take a few longer, slower, deeper breaths. And with each exhale, releasing the breath as fully as you can. And with each breath, offer your breath as a gift that your body can take or leave. Just notice how your body is responding to the gift of your breath. Breath of life, the breath of energy, breath of vitality, the breath that cleanses and bathes all of your cells. And just noticing how your body is responding to the gift of your breath. It might change or it might stay the same. It really doesn't matter. Whatever you're noticing about how your body is responding to the gift of your breath, just simply notice that. Acknowledging it and letting it be as it is. And now I invite you with your next breath into a soft belly to move your attention to the right side of your brain and allow an image or a memory or something to come to mind that feels good. And let yourself be surprised. Whatever shows up, the first thing that arises, accept what comes. And it might be very faint and subtle, or it could be quite vivid. It's something that feels good to your mind, body, or spirit. Whatever comes to mind, even if it makes absolutely no sense. Begin to notice any good feelings that you're aware of as you immerse your attention in the details of whatever has come to mind that feels good. Notice any colors that are there. Notice the shapes and textures. And listen for any sounds that are associated with this image. And sensing any fragrance or aroma that might be present. Bringing to life all the details. Notice if it moves. And allow yourself and give yourself permission in this moment to enjoy any good feelings that you're noticing now. As you do, begin to notice what's happening in your body. Just noticing how your biology responds as you immerse your attention in the details of whatever has come to mind for you. Noticing where in your body any good or pleasant feelings are activated in response to whatever you're immersing your attention in. And just notice how your breath might have changed, how the contact of your body might have settled a little more deeply. And I invite you now to bend your knees so your feet are standing. And lifting your right foot away from the floor, interlace your hands just behind. Well, no, let's put it on top. Have your hands interlaced around the front of the knee. So you're holding on to your right knee. And you might have your left foot a little bit out to the side. So it's a little wider, not too wide, but just a little. So we're going to explore something unique here, and that is a way to begin to move the hip from another part of the body. So that will make sense to you as we do it. But the idea here is that you're not going to be using your hand to move your hip. You're going to be using your shoulder girdle. So the way that's going to play out is if you were to begin to lift your left shoulder away from the floor, and just begin to feel how that may begin to move your right knee a little out to the right. And then return your shoulder to the floor. So you really could care less about how far your knee is moving. Your interest is in what happens if I lift my left shoulder away from the floor, and how does that begin to move my knee a little out to the side. So we're going to line up the nose with the knee so that when the knee feels that it's being moved because the left shoulder is lifting, that the nose is actually turning in the same way, at the same speed as the knee. And you're finding the most easeful, comfortable, gentle way to do this. There's no force, there's no efforting here. This can be very small. And then come back. And now begin to lift your right shoulder away from the floor and become curious and interested about what direction that would take the knee that you're holding on to. You might just begin to feel the pelvis rock a little to the side. Again, we're not using any extra effort. It's the least amount of effort needed to just feel how the shoulder girdle is allowing the knee to move, and your hands just supporting the knee. So now we're going to alternate lifting the right shoulder and then the left shoulder. And just the knee is doing nothing but following. Just beginning to enjoy that simple rocking of the pelvis. If you need to change your left foot in any way, if it needs to be farther apart or closer in, just finding that place that feels supportive and stable for your grounded foot to remain. Good. And then beautiful. Let that foot lower to the floor and straighten the legs for a moment. Returning to your soft belly breath, inviting your body to receive the gift of your breath. Just notice in that short little sequence that we did, is there a difference in the way that the right leg makes contact with the floor? Is there a difference in the settledness of the bones? What do you notice? So let's come back to the feet standing again. Holding now onto the left knee. So you're not trying to pull your knee to your chest. You're just a comfortable hold, and you might decide where you want to have your standing foot, whether it's a little wider, a little closer, or away from your butt. And you're just going to now begin to lift the right shoulder away from the floor. And as the shoulder lifts, there's sort of a turn of the upper body. There's a rotation that begins to occur in the chest, which then will begin to invite your nose to move in relation to your knee. So this is a novel thing for the body to feel that, like, for example, in this situation, the hip joint is being moved, but it's not moving of its own volition. It's being moved by something else, which is giving all different input into your brain and your system. The knee is just being supported, and what's initiating the movement is the lift of the shoulder. And then go to the other shoulder. See what it's like to lift the left shoulder. And there's the nose and the knee moving together. And then we'll alternate lifting one shoulder and then the other, and just becoming curious and interested in how that moves the knee, the hip, the nose. Feeling that gentle rocking of the pelvis side to side and seeing if there's any effort that you can let go of for this to be even easier. And then finish the one you're on and lower your legs and arms. All right, and as you begin to notice how your body weight might be settling, sinking, perhaps something feels longer or wider or heavier. We're not judging anything. We're not forcing anything to happen. We're just really curious and interested how, when we engage in certain movements, things start to change. They start to organize themselves differently. So this time I'd like you to, once again, bend your knees so you're standing on your feet. And interlace your hands behind your right knee. So you're underneath this time. You're on the back side of the knee, on the crease of the knee, underneath the kneecap, hands interlaced. I really love this movement for the feeling of length that it creates, the release and the decompression of the sacrum from the spine. So it's we're working the two legs together at the same time, but differently. So the first thing is we'll begin to put some pressure down into your standing foot, the one that's anchored to the floor. Push down, and as you do that, begin to lift your right heel away from your butt. So you're beginning to rock the pelvis a little bit in the headward direction, and then relax that back down. So you're not trying to pull your knee to your chest. As you're pushing down with your left foot, you're starting to bring the heel of your right foot toward the ceiling. So the leg is beginning to straighten a little bit. So as you push down with your left foot, see if you can start to straighten your right knee as if you were showing the bottom of your foot to the ceiling. And the idea is to begin to feel this little bit of a lift, but it's a rolling back of the pelvis. So it's not a detached lift, it's a pelvic roll, as if your pelvis were a bowl and it was rolling up in the headward direction. And so just begin to feel into what's available in your own body in terms of the lengthening of your right leg, so that you're inviting the foot to show itself to the ceiling as you straighten the knee. Now, there's a way that we can really create a nice, gentle rocking with this. And it involves what I'm going to call a toss of your legs. So as you're doing this movement, we're going to kind of pick up the speed a little. And it's almost like you're sort of throwing your right leg a little bit toward your upper body. In other words, you're sort of just a gentle kicking like motion. and it creates a little momentum, which begins to rock the pelvis. So you're going to bend the knee and straighten the leg. And in the straightening, there's this toss or this gentle kick that creates a little momentum for the rock to happen. So just see if you can find that in your body. It's a bending and it's a straightening, and there's just this gentle little kick, which creates a little more length in the back. Staying within what the guidance here is, to stay within what feels good to you. If it doesn't feel good, how can I alter this in a way that would feel better? How can I create a little bit of nuance? Maybe I do a smaller movement. Maybe I go back to slow. Okay, and then lower your foot back down. And just lower your legs and just take a moment to feel the two sides again. You might just notice how the contact of the bones are. Is there any difference in the way the pelvis is settling into the ground? And return to a few nice, slow belly breaths as this integrates. So standing on the feet again, holding on to the other knee, interlacing the fingers behind the left knee. So we start slow and coordinating the pushing down of the right foot and just beginning to lift the heel on the left away from the butt. So there's a bit of a straightening happening in your leg. And again, really the focus here is on one foot's pushing down, the other is lifting, and the whole focus is on creating this rocking of the pelvis. You're not so much trying to detach the pelvis away from the floor as much as you're trying to roll it back. And one way, let me give you a little additional nuance here to feel if this helps you. While you're pushing down with your left foot, see if you can reach with your left knee toward your foot. Kind of this gentle impulse of the knee lengthening a little toward the foot. And all that's happening while the right leg is straightening. See if that action helps the pelvis to feel just that little extra rolling. And when you dial it in just right for your body, I find this movement to be quite pleasurable and releasing for the low back. So once you got the mechanics of the movement in your own time, and if you want to, you can begin to do the leg toss. And that just is a kind of a way to pick up the speed in such a way that you're creating a little rocking of your pelvis, first going toward your head with the toss, and then the return back toward the sacrum with the bending of the knee. And you can decide what would be a nice rhythm for you. You might be playful and go fast and sort of lose any sense of controlling it and just see what happens if I sort of really let the leg swing in such a way that it creates this movement through my pelvis. Staying in the zone of pleasure. Your job is enjoyment. Okay, and when you feel complete, go ahead and straighten both legs. Becoming aware of whatever sensations are alive in the body in this moment. Just acknowledging what's there. Just direct experience. We don't even need to evaluate or think about sensation. We just notice, oh, something feels warmer, something feels tingly, something feels whatever the sensation is. All right, so this time, if you bend your knees again, place your left hand on the outside of your left knee. So your foot's away from the floor on the left, and you're just on the outside. Your right arm is going to be elbow bent in what I sometimes call the goalpost position. So that means there's a right angle bend or so in your elbow, your hands comfortably resting on the floor. Adapt it in whatever way you need to for your shoulder to feel comfortable. So even if that means there's less of a bend in the elbow, like see where the arm can rest comfortably on the right with the elbow bent out to the side. So if you were to visualize in your mind and draw a line between your right elbow and the inside of the left knee, I'd like you to see if you can bring your right elbow toward your left knee. You can keep your head on the floor, but shorten the line between your right elbow and your left knee. So you're kind of almost maybe touching, maybe not, but you're moving in that direction. And then as you come out of it, open the knee on the left out to the side and see if you can, with your right hand, kind of almost find the back of your fingernails, back of your hand, and push them into the floor. So we're activating the back side of the body. So now the line is long. We'll go back into the short line. Bring the inside of the elbow and the knee toward one another. We're working with that reflex of curling in toward the center of the body. Then we're expanding out as the knee moves toward the floor, the elbow moves toward the floor, and maybe even pressing your knee a little into your hand so you feel the back of the hip, the elbow, the fingernails pressing down so there's a sense of your shoulder blade, and then back to shortening the line, elbow and knee toward one another. Now your head is going to follow what the elbow's doing. So when your elbow's opening out, your head would be looking towards your open elbow. When your elbow's closing and it's coming toward the knee, the head would start to roll toward the left. So this is, really embracing these two reflexes, the closure, the protecting of the center of the body, the withdrawal, the tightening of all the flexors of the front of the body. And then we come out of that. And this is the opening. This is the moving into life, receiving breath. So it's really helpful to time the breath with this one. Exhaling with the shortening of the line and inhaling with the expansion and the opening. And take your time. All right, and now we'll complete the one you're on and switch the hand position. So you're on the outside of the left knee, right knee. The left arm is in that bent elbow position, just to the side of your face, but it's comfortable. And then you're seeing this imaginary line, you're going to close the line. So shortening the line between your elbow and the knee that you're holding. Exhaling. Inhaling, opening the knee, opening the elbow away from the midline with a full breath. Fingernails into the floor. And letting the head roll in the same direction that the elbow's moving in. Breathing, exhaling as you flex in toward the center, inhaling as you open out from the center. So find your rhythm, because your rhythm will depend on your breathing. But see if with the closing you can really squeeze all the breath out. Squeezing the breath out gives lots more space for more breath to come in. Okay, and finish the one you're on. Pause and relax. You might just become aware of your spine in this moment, sensing its shape, its curves, its contact with the floor. And see if you can become aware of the sandwich that we're creating here. Muscles in the front, the abdominal muscles, supporting the top of the spine, and the muscles in the back. And just sort of notice that we've gone some back and forth. We've sort of been flipping the sandwich from front to back. Just see if you can notice, is my spine beginning to feel an awareness of front to back support. So we've just been visiting the diagonals, opposite elbow and knee. Now we're going to do the full execution of this reflex, the Moro reflex. So you can stand on your feet once again with your knees bent. This time we'll keep the feet on the floor. Imagine that you're holding a ball over your chest, like kind of like a beach ball, a round ball. Maybe the fingertips are barely touching, if at all. Soft elbows, so there's no rigid tension in the elbows. And the first thing to practice with this is as you begin to open the arms apart, we're going to move the arms into that goalpost position. So the arms will find the floor as they open. Tilt the head back. So your eyes look up and your head tilts back at least 30 degrees. That's part of this. And then exhale. And as you exhale, bring the elbows to touch and the hands to touch into this prayer position and bow your head like you're creating a prayer. So your chest, your elbows and your hands are over your chest and you're bowing your head looking down. Start with the ball again before we go into it. Create the ball, fingertips barely touching. Back into opening, expanding into the goalpost, chest lifting. And now elbows together, hands together, bowing the head down so the chin lowers to the neck. Starting with the ball again, opening out, holding the round ball over your chest as your starting place. Opening, expanding with the breath into goalpost, where the hands touch the floor, chest lifts. Eyes up, head back 30 degrees, important part of this. Exhale, elbows come together, hands come together, creating the bow. Now, come back to your holding your ball. There's one more part of this, and that's working with the hips at the same time. So hold the ball, it's round, it's over your chest, your fingertips are barely touching. As you open the ball into the goalpost, open the knees apart, two frog legs opening apart, eyes up, head tilted back 30 degrees. Nice open front of the body. Exhale, come together, elbows, hands together, knees together, everything closing as the head bows down. Once again, starting with the ball, holding the round ball over your chest, opening the arms into the goalpost, opening the knees, head tilting back. Now this time, closing the knees, closing the elbows. Once they're closed, bring the elbows toward the knees. Lift your feet away from the floor, like coming into a fetal position. The option is to lift your head or not. Some people, it's too much strain for their head, so you can certainly keep your head on the floor. Come back again to standing on your feet, holding the ball. That's our start place. Open the arms wide, head tilted back, knees apart, frog leg. Knees are open first. Feet are still on the floor, knees are open wide into frog leg. Exhale, close the arms, close the knees only when they're closed and touching. Do you lift your feet away from the floor, elbows toward your knees, flexing everything, pulling in toward a center, like a sea anemone closing its center? Starting with the ball, opening, widening, expanding, looking up toward your forehead. Tilt the head back. Knees are open, wide, like two frog legs open. Feet are on the floor for this. Exhaling, closing the elbows, closing the knees. Once everything is closed and touching is when you curl into that fetal position. Feet then lift away from the floor. And one more time on your own. Start with the ball. Open the ball, open the legs, head tilting back. Nice open front. Exhale, closing the front, closing the knees, closing the elbows, coming into that prayer position as you bow your head, lifting the feet away from the floor to come into the fetal curl. So this is an excellent movement to do anytime you're feeling anxious, stressed, overwhelmed, any type of energy of fear or anxiety. Just doing this movement begins to mobilize that energy and help the body to feel how this reflex is sort of gripping itself in your tissues, and you can just move through it, showing it, yes, I acknowledge you, and this is how we can balance that. So once you've completed the one you're on, take a pause to rest. Just checking in again, just noticing what's alive in your body in this moment, in this world of sensation. Again, so often we go to our mind to evaluate, and try to figure stuff out. But in this work, the value is in just acknowledging sensation. Just staying in that place of curiosity and wonder. Might return to the soft belly breath, inviting your body to receive the gift of your breath. So now we're going to roll over onto our front side. So you lie on your abdomen, and we're going to work with the Landau reflex, which is that picture of the little baby that I showed you. So if you could stack your hands so that one hand, let's have the right hand on top of the left hand, and then place your forehead on your hands. So you're lying on your belly, your right hand on top of your left. And just take a moment to let your body yield and settle into this new position. If you need to adjust your arms in any way, just becoming aware. So your hands are stacked one on top of the other, with your right hand on top of your left, your forehead on your hands. And just begin by letting your eyes float upward as if you were going to begin to look at your forehead and start to lift your head away from your hands. And just become curious about what you might push into the floor to help your head lift. Maybe there's something in your belly or hips. See if you can find that push in the center of the body. And then slowly turn your head to one side and lower it back down. And then starting again with the head in the center. We're beginning with the eyes. They float upward, and then we're following the lift of the eyes to lift the head, and we're interested in what we might push into the floor to assist in the lifting of the body as it's coming away from the floor. See if you can initiate pushing something central, the belly or the hips, front of the hips. Turn your head to the other side as you lower. Let's explore that one more time, starting with the head in the center, initiating the lift of the eyes. Think of that little baby lying on its tummy, for the first time beginning to become aware of the muscles along its spine and finding out how it begins to support the lift of the head. And when you're up there, you're going to just turn your head to one side and lower everything back down to complete rest. You might even find that the arms are helping you lift a little. Just explore. There's no right or wrong way. It's like, this is how a baby learns what works to begin to activate all those muscles along the spine. Okay, now let's start with the right hand on top of the left. If you're still there, go ahead and put the right hand on top of the left. Now, this time we're going to be lifting the elbow on the right away from the floor. So as you go ahead and look up with your eyes, keep your head on your hand and lift your head, your hand, and your elbow on the right away from the floor, and start to look over your shoulder. And then very slowly lower yourself back down. So I like to start with the head in the center, and then as the head, hand, and elbow are lifting, there's an invitation to start to turn the head to look over the lifting elbow. So again, your hand is on your forehead, you're lifting your head, your elbow away from the floor, turning the head as it's looking over the right elbow. Now we're going to add one more thing to complete this entire reflex pattern, and that is the lifting of the left leg. So it's the opposite leg and elbow lifting. It's such an important movement for releasing any tension along the spine. So as you're lifting your right elbow, your head, you're also lifting your left leg. You're pausing and looking over your right shoulder and then melting back down to the floor. Everything relaxes, the head recenters, and pause for a moment to feel everything along your spine relax completely. And again, same right elbow, left leg, turning to look over your right shoulder and slowly melting to the floor. All the muscles along the spine completely relax once you're back to the ground. Now, if there's any struggle for you in doing this, if you're finding it challenging, you can leave your elbow on the floor and just lift your head and your leg. That's another variation. So if you find that it's just too intense for you to do all of these things lifting together, then just lift your head and your leg, still turning your head to the right, and just see if that is easier for you. You're still activating those spinal muscles. You're trying to keep your leg pretty straight so that you're not bending the knee. You're just lifting the leg. And then the most important thing is melting. At the end, you want to pause and feel everything relax. Slow. Okay, let's turn so that we have the left hand on top of the right. Your hands are still stacked. The left hand is on top of the right. Let's just start with the upper body. So, keeping your head to your hand, if you can, lift your head, hand, and elbow away from the floor and turn to look over your elbow as it's lifting. Feel the muscles engage, and then can you feel them soften and disengage once you're back down to the ground? And again, if it's too challenging for you to lift that elbow up, then just lifting the head, turning the head, and looking over your shoulder is another variation. So we're going to add the opposite leg now. So you'll be lifting the left elbow and the right leg. Turning to look over the lifting elbow and going super slow here. Super slow is what really gives the feedback to your brain. Oh, this is how I switch the reflex on, and this is how I switch it off. So everything diffuses and comes to rest. Now, very well done. See that you're all doing this very nicely. Have your arms sort of, they can be a little out to the side, but your forehead in the center, your legs both straight. This time, see if you can lift your head and both legs all together So head lifts and both legs lift, everything like seeing that little picture of the baby extending its back muscles. Look up with your eyes to the ceiling. And then slowly all the way to the ground where everything relaxes again. Okay. Now, there's one more thing I want to do in this position. So your arms can be sort of out to the side, like in the goalpost position. So palms down with the elbows bent. The legs are straight. Now, this is going to start. You might actually want to bring your elbows in close to your body. So what we're going to do is start to, the cobra pose in yoga. I want you to sort of slide your elbows in close to your body so that you are lifting your head and your chest away from the floor, and you're balancing not on your hands, but on your forearms, just like they do in yoga where they come into the cobra. Good. And then slowly come back down. You can turn your head to one side if you'd like. So we're going to do this again. So coming up, now from here, think of reaching through your tailbone so that you're going to be on your knees and your butt is going to move toward your heels. So reach through your tailbone, let your butt move toward your heels, and come up more onto your knees. The butt lifts away from the floor and moves toward the heels. If you need to see what that looks like, then you can look at Bruce for a moment. And then lower back down to where you were on your arms. And all the way back down to the floor. We'll do that one more time. Bring your arms in close. So you've got sort of this, what I call the Sphinx position. The arms can be your balance point. You're lifting your chest, your upper body away from the floor. And then you're going to imagine a string pulling on your tailbone so that the tailbone moves toward your heels, coming more up onto your knees. Good. And then returning back down. All the way to the floor. That's starting to look really nice. Let's do that again. Pull the elbows in close, lift the head. Chest is lifted. And then what does it take for me to reach through my tailbone so that I can come onto my knees and just letting the arms elongate, feel that nice length through your spine. Very nice. And then roll back over onto your backs. Taking a few moments to allow for some integration, some rest. Breathing into a soft belly. Just notice as you feel your spine again. Notice what you're aware of in terms of the activation or the muscles or the aliveness or the vitality of sensation along your spine. Allowing your bones to sink into that quiet solidity that the bones offer us. There's a solidity and a stability. Just feeling the weight of your bones resting, sinking, settling. So now if you could kind of widen your legs a little and bring your arms up overhead comfortably on the floor, but wide, like you're forming what I call a star. You're in the star position. So your arms are up overhead, your legs are wide, you're in the star position, but again, we're always modifying for comfort. So as straight as your arms can be, the better for this for now. So even if that means your arms are just straight out from your sides, that's perfectly fine. So we're going to work for a moment with the two halves of the body. So if we were to divide the body down the midline, we'd have a right half and we'd have a left half. And I want you to think of opening your left knee out to the side into a frog leg position, while at the same time bending your left elbow. So you're sliding your left elbow as if your left elbow and your left knee were going to kiss each other. They're just moving toward one another in such a way that they could, you could fold or shorten the whole left side of the body. And then straighten that back out again. So the experience here is one of having a short side and a long side. Right now, we're working with the left side being the short side. You're just bending your elbow and knee together, letting your head kind of follow in the curve that the spine is making because it's forming a C curve. And then straightening. So let's do that again, bending, folding, shortening, and feeling the duality here of one side being short and flexed while the other side is long and extended. Okay, now let's do the same thing on the right. So bending your right knee out to the side, elbow and knee curving together. You're trying to see what's it like to make your spine curve into a C position, like the letter C. So your head's following in that curve, feeling the shortness on the right. Okay, now that we've gotten that, we can begin to have some fun. So let's stay on this side. Let's stay on the right side as being the short side. What I'd like you to do is bend your elbow and knee, curving to the side, and then pause while you're in that curve. Lift your elbow and knee away from the floor. So the elbow and knee lift away from the floor. The foot can lift away from the floor, and you're rolling as if you're rolling over onto your long side. So let your whole body begin to roll over onto your long side. So it's like, this is called closing the book and opening the book. We just closed the book. Now we're going to open the book. So the elbow and knee open back out again, find their place on the floor on the right, and then straightening back to become the long side once again. Let's repeat that. Same side, elbow and knee together, curving the spine, and then you're going to close the book by bringing the right elbow and right knee all the way across the midline. If you want to bend your bottom leg so your knees can both be together touching when you're on your side, that's an option. And then going back to opening the book and finding how your body organizes this closing and opening motion. Again, same side, really refining all these coordination of movements so that everything's working together. Finding where there's any place of tension or struggle and seeing what can I do to make this an easy roll, like a baby would roll onto its side. Okay, so let's do the same side again, and we'll actually do something a little different with the long side. So begin with the folding of the right elbow and knee together. And as you're starting to cross the midline, start to bend your left knee and elbow so that your book, as it closes, can have both knees and elbows touching. Then as you open the book and you begin to uncurl, the straight side lengthens, long left side. Once again, coordinating the shortening of the right side first, closing the book as you roll to the left side, and as you roll to the left side, curling into both elbows, both knees bent. And as the book is opening, then extending the left arm and the left leg long. Okay, let's switch to the left side. So body half flexion is what this is called. Half the body is flexing, the other half is going to stay long. So first of all, we're just doing one thing at a time, so the brain learns sequentially. Just doing the bending of your knee out to the side and the bending of your elbow, as if you're without the lift. Just bend and fold the spine into a short C curve, and then straighten. Confusion happens when we try to take too many steps too fast. So we really take our time and stack each thing so the body knows how to organize it. So one side is folding and shortening, the other side is staying long. What do I need to do to actually find that curvature in my spine where I could really feel the spine shaping itself into a half moon? And then going ahead and we'll start to fold the left side short and then cross over the midline like we're going to close the book. And then opening the book. So the knee and elbow open back out, the roll onto the back, and then the straightening again. And folding, closing the book. Nice, easy roll to the side. And then unfolding, opening the book. Now this time we're going to go into closing the book. So let's fold into the C curve, make the spine into a half moon, close the book, and as we roll to the side, bring the long side into it. So the knee and the elbow also bend. Everything is curling in towards your center. Then open the book, straighten the long side, long arm, long leg, and then straighten the left side. Again, folding, C curving, half moon, closing the book, and then drawing the right arm and leg into the curl. Opening the book and then uncurving. And last time on your own. Okay. So now just check in before we come to a place of constructive rest position. Check in and see if your body needs anything at all right now for your feeling of completion. Just sensing any impulse your body might have to move or to shake or to settle so that you feel that satisfaction, that contentment of really having nourished yourself. If there's anything, please let your body just guide you into whatever movement it might need for itself right now. And when you feel complete, I invite you into a place of just complete rest. And just feeling the whole weight of your body surrendering, yielding, giving way to that feeling of support of the ground. And your breath is breathing itself all on its own. Maybe you'd like to tune into your breath and see how your body is receiving the gift of your breath. Maybe you can feel the ribs widening on the in-breath and narrowing on the out-breath. You might even feel the wave of the breath as it's moving up and down your spine. And you might return your attention to the right side of your brain and see if there's a different image, or maybe it's the same, something that feels good to your mind, body, and spirit. Just allowing that image and all the details of it. The colors, the smells. And just noticing any pleasant feelings that are activated in response to whatever your attention is immersing itself in. And as we bring our practice to a close today, I just want to thank you for being here, for your presence, and for all of your attention as we explored some of these reflexes. And I invite you, when you feel ready, to roll over onto one side and come back to a sitting position.